Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Josh Hook, owner and president at Vesta Commercial Services. And today we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, his challenges, maybe some best practices, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to really own and operate a business. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get a notification when a new show drops just like this one. Well, Josh, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Heather. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I would love for our audience just to hear a little bit about you and your background and really just learn about your business.
Yeah. So I'm Josh Hook, obviously. I'm the owner and president of Vesta Commercial Services. I have a business partner. His name's Landon. We own 50-50 of the company. Been that way from the beginning. Making sure that him and I hold on to 100% ownership of the company has been towards the top of our list as far as importance from the beginning. We work in the commercial construction space, so we don't really deal with residential stuff. It's all us dealing with developers and general contractors. A lot of people think, oh, you do concrete, so you do driveways, things like that. We don't deal in that area. We would be very expensive because what we do is we deal with the bigger projects. Like right now we're on Coda Land doing the concrete for a roller coaster down there. So to get jobs like that, we have to have bonding and certain levels of insurance, and our overhead is way more involved than say a John or Jose out of their truck that can come do your driveway for you. So we are in the commercial sector. Our main bread and butter is concrete. We found a nice little niche in site concrete, so like hardscapes. A lot of the bigger companies want to go vertical. So they want to do, say there's a 20-story tower going down. They want to go up. They don't want to touch any of the work that's down on the ground, any of the roadways, the curb and gutter, the sidewalks, the retaining walls, benches, stairs, all that. So we found this nice little spot where it's a different type of concrete, so your employees have to know a little bit more. It's one of those things where it gets piecemealed together, so they need to know how to do step A through Z, where a lot of these guys that go vertical, it's more piecemealed. It's more, think factory Henry Ford, like they have guys that just form, guys that just tie rebar, guys that just finish. Our guys kind of need to be able to do all of it because you never know, okay, you're going to be told you're going to have this whole section to do, but really when you get out there, you can only do this section of sidewalk, this one stair, and this section of roadway because someone else is in your way. So we found a nice little spot there, but it's not the only thing we do. We also do demolition.
Okay.
Specialize in wrecking, but we're not just wrecking. We are one of the few guys in town that have access to a high reach excavator that reaches up about 100 feet. So we do a lot of wrecking of like 7-8 story buildings, parking garages, things like that.
That has to be a little fun to do, I would guess.
It's the most fun thing we do, honestly. Get a lot of crowds, videos do really well. Every now and then I kind of have to stop and like, this is what I do for a living, is take down 7-story structure. So
yes.
We just priced up an implosion about 6 months ago. Haven't done an implosion yet. Well, business partner has, I haven't. So I was looking for, hopefully that goes through. But we'll see on that.
Great videos for sure, I bet.
Yeah. And then we added earthwork back at the end of last year. So dirt. It kind of is a middle ground in between. We come in, take out the building, and we're going in and doing the site work and putting in the foundations and whatnot. And earthwork was a trade that was in between. We got asked to do it quite a bit. We did a lot of fine grading, but we finally pulled the trigger on adding that as a full-on division. Brought over a guy. He's hitting the ground running on that one really well. So we're doing well. I mean, no real complaints.
Well, just for reference for everyone, including myself, what are some examples in the Austin area that you have helped build, and change the landscape of?
Okay, that's a good question. Kyle Heroes Memorial Park. I don't know if any of you guys know that. We did that, won a couple awards. That was a fun one. Whew, that was a pain. Looks really good. It was not a lot of fun while it was going on, but we made it happen. We're on Ascension Hospital right now on 38th Street. We took on the parking garage
Oh,
out there, getting ready to do all that concrete.
and
Uh,
did you mention Coda, a roller coaster?
yeah, we're on Coda Land right now. We're doing the foundations, all the piers, retaining walls, mat slabs for the roller coaster right now. We're getting ready to start another building out there. Uh,
Wow. You're
we have
putting up the roller coaster? Is that what you just said?
We're doing the foundation. So we're doing all the
Okay,
piers and the pedestals. The roller
got
coaster that's
it.
going in out there is actually the first one in America. It's a tilt roller coaster. So what it does is it goes up and it stops, and the track itself actually tilts, goes down.
So
Uh,
is this like breaking news? Because I haven't heard anything for those of
no,
us that live
it,
here. Is this breaking news of what's coming to Coda?
it's out there. It's you can
Okay.
find it. I just don't know how big it's out there. But if you look up the circuit breaker, I mean, I didn't realize like how in depth, like there are like forums for people who are really into roller coasters, and you can read all about it. Like it's pretty
Wow.
interesting. But yeah,
How
there's
did you
a
get, how did you even get like something? Because that's a national stage, if you will, I think, Coda. How did you even lead up to that? What was some of the behind the scenes for that?
in our industry, we're very much, I don't, it's a old school face-to-face relationship.
Mm,
That's marketing. Like I'm not 100% sure that there's anybody in your audience that honestly would be suitable for us for a customer, because we need the right person. That's our
hmm.
whole marketing campaign is all built on, like, we have Austin FC tickets and take people out and get to know the person.
Wow.
Because there's only so many general contractors, developers in the city, and really that within those teams, there's only so many guys that pull the trigger on things. So
Hmm.
um, a lot of what we do is we get in with these companies, the general contractors, these developers, start small, do small little things, and then build up trust. They get to know who we are and what we stand for, and we try to build long lasting relationships with guys
Hmm.
that not only we can trust, but can trust us to get them out of a bind and be a solution, not a problem. Because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, these guys, these developers, these general contractors, they're just wanting to get a job done on time, under budget,
Yeah.
and without as many issues as possible. And if you can appeal to that side of them, it's showing who we are and what we believe in. So circle back ways about Coda. It's kind of a long years of building relationships with people that built
Mm.
getting that opportunity.
Yeah, you're really looking at the long game and not the what can we do next week?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
We are in the construction world, it's ever changing. Like, you have to be malleable.
Mm.
It's all about adapting. We actually do our scheduling meeting on Thursdays for the following week. Even doing it on Thursdays, we know, give it 4 hours,
Mm.
it's all going to change. Something's going to move around. Something that was supposed to start is going to get put off because they didn't get the permitting, or
Mm.
the guy that was installing the glass is delayed, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting. My business partner and I have a lot of discussions where you kind of gotta keep your eye on what's going on right now to make sure it's on track. But I mean, these big construction projects, they take months and months and years sometimes to get to the
Hmm.
point where you're starting work.
That makes
Uh,
sense.
and they have to go through permitting and legal and all that. So you don't really know exactly. You might be told, hey, it's going to start in January. It doesn't start till June, or maybe the other way
Yeah.
around, it starts a little bit earlier. So it's constantly kind of juggling
Hmm.
and making sure that we have the right amount of work at the right time to keep the ball rolling forward.
Hmm. That makes sense. It really does. So you mentioned your business partner, Landon.
Mhm.
I kind of want to get into the why of it all. Why construction? What road led you here?
That's a good question. I actually went to school. Both he went to school also. We've got a sport management degree. My whole dream in life when I was younger was to be a general manager. I was going to go into like the operations side. Actually, what brought me to Texas is I got an internship with the Rockets. I was in the
Oh,
suites.
fun.
Found out pretty quickly, if you're not a former player, coach, or know
Mm.
somebody, like, good luck. I got offered a job.
Okay.
I was in ticket sales, making like 20K a year or
Oh
something.
no,
I was like,
that's
probably
not
need
what
to,
I went to school for.
yeah, probably need to pivot here and find something that makes more sense. So my stepdad was in construction. use that to get a job as a part-time estimator starting out on a small general contract, kind of working my way up there. My business partner, he's been in construction his whole life. He has family members that were in construction. It's kind of been something where he's been drawn to it, and it's kind of he's very good at it too. And it's kind of he fits in that world more than I do. That's kind of one reason we do well together. Um, we worked at a company together in Houston. He's actually my boss there. He was the regional manager. I was the PM, kind of operations guy in Houston. He'd come in town once a week, and one time it was just us, and we went out to eat, and we were sitting there, and I asked him like, "Hey, do you enjoy this? Like, are you happy here?" And he kind of just went blank and didn't say anything for like 15 seconds. It was probably like 5. And I finally was like, because I don't like this job at all. The job we had before was just very intense, a lot of pressure. I had days where like my phone log was just from that day of phone calls. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun, but it was like something I didn't see myself doing for the rest of my life. And that he kind of looked at me after I talked, and then he's like, I was going to quit. You're supposed to take my job for me. Like I was trying to get out of here. And that kind of sparked a conversation. We came up with a business idea. It was actually a poker room. We had some investors that fell through at last minute. And that kind of made us stop and think, okay, we want to do something, but what do we do? So we sat back and thought, okay, who do we know? What's our network? Who do we know we can get work with, and where do we see a need? And that actually brought us to waste hauling. That's where we started our this whole journey, which part of it's because we had a non-compete, so we couldn't touch mainly demolition, but concrete was a little iffy because we did a couple little concrete jobs, but obviously non-compete isn't as big as it is now as it was. But so I don't know if we want to go in that story.
I mean, I would love it. I think this is important for business owners to hear, just the twists and turns of business ownership.
It's about to get crazy.
Okay, tell us.
So we decided waste hauling. He has kids, so it was harder for him to kind of just jump out, and like I still don't. I'm married now, wasn't at the time, so it was easier for me like just not to get paid for a year or whatever.
Sure.
So he went off and worked for another company, and just basically waiting out the 2 years so he can come over and hit the ground running. And the whole point was get the waste hauling, get 2 years of financials underneath you, which I'm sure you'll honestly, like, banks won't listen to you till you're in business 2 years. Like it's even waste hauling. Like we had to buy a truck, about an 86 Western Star, like a piece of crap. And we had to take a loan out on it, which I don't even want to go back and look at the terms. It was just, I think it was like 2 years, and we ended up paying like triple what the price of the truck was. But nobody else would give you a loan at that point. Yeah. So that process was fun. So we bought this truck, and the getting your CDL takes a long time. I was driving the truck. I was only employee for 2 years. So I was getting my CDL. It's a month-long process. A lot of times the city's backlogged. So the closest one I could get was like in Giddings, and it was like a month and a half out. Everything else was like 4 months out. So I set this date to go take my test to get my CDL. In between that, we found the truck, and I was like, okay, well, I had like a learner's permit. I'm like, okay, so what we can do is I'll fly out to Los Angeles where the truck was, and I'll find a local like CDL driver that'll drive back with me, because I couldn't drive. I didn't have the license yet. That's the whole reason I was coming back, was to take that test. Well, that was on Friday, and my test was like Monday. We found a guy on Craigslist who agreed to drive back with me. And so I flew out to Las Vegas, bought the truck, sight unseen. We knew knew nothing about it except what we saw. Started driving, went and picked up I picked him up first because I couldn't drive. Started driving, got outside LA and realized there was a governor on the truck, and it could only go like 60.
No.
So this I think it was like a 32-hour drive, was about to be like 40 something. And
oh no,
going to be back in time for my CDL
class. With a guy you just met.
Just
a 40-hour drive with a guy you just met.
Yeah. He was a little sketchy too. A little sketchy. So we decided right there to like, okay, there's no way I'm going to make it back in time to make this CDL class.
Oh, that's right.
So turned around, parked the truck. The guy ended up robbing me. Yeah.
Oh my God. So he was sketchy. This
Yeah,
is very sketchy.
he took my money and left me in a really sketchy part of LA where I had to like walk for an hour to find a place to go.
No
Good
cell
news is
phone?
I did, but it was like I couldn't get a hold of anybody. I think I eventually walked for a while and got Uber and Ubered to like a
Okay.
hotel, if I remember correctly. This was
This is
70.
a movie. This is
Yeah,
a movie for sure.
yeah. So he robbed me, took my money. I flew back, made it in time. Like I landed Sunday at like 10, had the class 6 in the morning, went well, passed, flew back out there. At this time, I had my CDL, so I could just drive on my own. Like I didn't need somebody. So got in the truck, started driving, um, stopped on the border of California and went out to get gas. It was about midnight, 12:30, got gas, went in, got something to eat, went back out, and the truck wouldn't start. It was just dead. I was in Blythe, Arizona. I think that's where
Okay.
it was about 45 minutes from anything. I mean, you're like, it's little tiny town in the middle of nowhere. I sat there for an hour, and at this point, it's like 2 in the morning. This guy drove up. His name was Jackson. I remember I talked to him. He was a nice guy. Hitchhiked to the nearest town.
Oh my goodness.
Um, Stayed in the hotel. Somehow found like a roaming mechanic that would come out and look at it. Turned out to be the alternator had gone bad. They had to order that part in, which there aren't 86 Western Star alternators sitting around, so they had to order it and ship it over. The guy was slow, very slow, so I ended up putting it in myself. Got in the truck, came out. Rest of the story went fairly well. Made it back. Got here, had a day to train, and then our first job we ever did was out at ABIA. They were redoing the roof out there, so we got a job where we were taking down the material for them.
Oh my
And
gosh.
my very first time dropping a can was in between two active planes at ABIA. It was like baptism by fire. Like, oh, okay, yep, this is happening. I'm about to do this right now. And you could just, I didn't know what I was doing. The superintendent at the time that was out there, you could just see on his face, like, what, who did we hire? But yeah, I figured it out
How
quickly. But that was
how in the midst of all that did you just not say, I give up, this is not the direction I'm gonna go? How did you keep going?
I mean, to me, growing up, what always frightened me was having a job that I didn't like, sitting behind a desk, making money for somebody else. Like at the end of the day, like that's what your job boils down to, is making sure someone else makes money. And to me, that was way more scary than getting robbed in LA. Like I would have
Wow.
done that over and over and over again. Like that's, to me, it was a no-brainer to go down that path and push, because I couldn't imagine waking up one day being 45, having the same job for the last 20 years, and it's like, what am I doing? Where am I? And then at that point, you're kind of like, so many doors are closed behind you. I don't know if I watched Office Space too young and it just kind of just ingrained in my mind, but growing up, that was something that I never envisioned myself
Yeah.
work for
Isn't
some.
that interesting? Like your biggest fear was sitting behind a desk, and we're all made different, of course. But because of that, that's what motivated you and made you really be at the place you are now,
Mhm.
successful. So when you look back at that journey and that you're now creating jobs for other people, how do you make sure that your employees love their job too?
That's a good question. And that's a lot of what drives us here at Vesta
Mm,
is we don't set revenue goals. We consider ourselves a profit company, but at the same time, we don't micromanage. We don't sweat
mhm.
the small things. And a lot of that, it comes back to making sure our guys are happy, making sure they're taking time off.
Yeah.
Construction is a hard industry. You're almost guaranteed to work 50 hours. Most of our guys want to work
Mm,
more because they want the overtime. It's very stressful. Everything's scheduled. You need to be done by this day. You need to have this done. If you're not done, there's liquidated damages. So it's pretty intense. our guys can burn out quick, and
Mhm.
it's we try to pass that on to them as far as letting them have freedoms, letting them
Mhm.
make choices that maybe other employees won't let them, not hounding them over little tiny small things. We quite frequently, actually, we just last Saturday we were out at the Austin FC game with the whole company, just having a good time.
Mm.
That's something that really it's nice to see all these guys talking and just having a friendship. Because at the end of the day, like it's a company, it's great. I'm glad I went down it, but like when I stop and pause, I always think back of on the friendship moments of sitting with my
Mm.
business partner and just talking about nothing, having a drink, or going out with an employee and losing track of time. And next thing you know, we're closing down a bar or going to his house for Christmas. It's like those things you look back on. It's the friendship. We
Mhm.
try to cultivate that. There's quite frequently we'll have scheduling meetings on Thursdays.
Mhm.
Go a little late, we'll
Yeah.
wind up somewhere in a restaurant or a bar or wherever. Just the
Mhm.
management team is having a good time, relaxing. And
Yeah.
it is a stressful industry, and
Mhm.
we're in it. Maybe we're done for being in it. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's in creating an environment for our guys to feel like they can come to us and they can take time off and they can feel appreciated.
Mhm.
That's very important. So that's one of the hard things I've had to deal with as an owner is I had this grandiose plan for this company, like, oh, we're going to have employees for 40 years. And we're going to buy them trucks.
Mhm.
They're going to be so happy. And one of the hardest things for me is realizing that only like 10% of them even care. And it's you run
Mm.
these situations where you bend over backwards for somebody and then they leave for 50 cents. And it's like, why?
Mm.
What? I've had to like wrap my head around like it's the
Mhm.
10% that matter, the 10% that actually care, like focus on them
Mm.
and showing them and appreciating them. I appreciate everybody, but
Yeah.
you can't get upset whenever you show somebody your heart and they leave
Mm.
for 50 cents because a lot of people don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. How has that grown you as a leader and a business owner?
Quite a bit, actually. Like I said, I'm sure I was just naive coming into this that I was going to make everybody happy and everybody's going to work for us for years and
Mhm.
years. Um, like I said, I've had to put myself in other people's shoes
Mhm.
and I mean, at this point, a lot of what I do is ego management. Like I'm my own
Mm.
company, but it's people underneath me. So it's a lot of learning who people are and
Mhm.
what makes them tick and what they want and what they're looking for and utilizing that and managing them. And a lot of those lessons I've learned as far as what I thought this company was going to be and going through this growth process of like, okay, maybe this is more reality is how
Mhm.
utilize a lot of that and how I manage my employees.
Yeah. When I think about team and a lot of our listeners have teams like you do, whether they're contract or full-time or however that looks. When you really pour back into your team, what have you noticed has been the response back as far as, that 10%, you said it's usually 10% committed. What has been the response from them and how they treat their own job?
Oh, that's the 10% it's the 10% that are passionate that care.
Mhm.
Um, and it's shown back tenfold from those employees. Those employees that buy in and believe in Landon and I as owners. It's why we do this. I mean, we
Mm.
have employees that start out as um, foremen, running one job. They're now operation managers running
Mhm.
all of the labor force.
Mhm.
We've brought in guys that we've known through other companies who we've seen as like, oh, that guy's pretty sharp as he's younger. Let's bring
Yeah.
him on. And actually, the guy that's running Coda for us right now, we hired him to manage all that. And
Oh, cool.
he worked for a GC before, and we just kind of identified him like this guy is a little sharp guy, and
Mhm.
he's been so nice having over. He views things differently. It's a breath of fresh air.
Mm.
But these
Got to
guys,
keep your eye open.
yeah. These guys that buy in it's why we keep on going forward.
Yeah.
It's what prevents us becoming jaded as owners because
Mm-hmm.
it is there are, I mean, there's stories where you bend over backwards, get a guy a truck and he wrecks it and he blames you even though it was his fault. And then all of
Wow.
this.
Yeah, that's hard.
Then,
That's really hard.
then you got to focus on like, okay, then there's this guy who cares. He really cares. And we're able to
Mm-hmm.
provide for him and he can provide for his family. He's growing his life and it means a lot.
Yeah. It sounds like you're developing not just friendships, like you're saying, in a culture, really. So when you look down the road and how maybe, your business will grow, and what does that look like with passing maybe the company on, or what does your runway look like? The whole exit strategy conversation.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you and Landon talk about that?
We do. This company is getting to the point where it's kind of getting beyond where even him and I thought it was
Mm,
capable of going. And we've discussed multiple exit strategies. One of them that we've talked the most about is kind of a selling back to the employees, like an
mm,
ESOP situation. That's something that we would like to get eventually. It's construction is a weird industry where payment terms are terrible. Like
mm,
at any point in time, we have about a third of our revenue for the year out in account receivable. So we're just constantly
mm.
like we're doing really well. We're 3 times in a row Austin fastest growing company. But
Oh, great.
I think all that
Congratulations.
means is your accounts receivable number just gets bigger. Like, uh, I joke with people all the time because obviously employees like, oh, you're the owner, you have all this money, like your man's like, yeah, if I shut the company down and just let everything come in, like, yeah, I'd be doing well, but it's like that's not how things are.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, we've discussed having a ESOP situation with the employees and selling back to them. That would be the ultimate goal. We're not quite there yet.
mhm,
That's more down the road once him and I are
mhm,
ready to check out. But I think we enjoy this too much to check out
mhm.
currently.
Do you consider yourself like an entrepreneur, like a serial entrepreneur? Like if you maybe down the road opening more or different kinds of businesses, or is this something that you just feel like this is where I want to plant my flag and where I want to go?
Um, my secret, like I'm not passionate about construction at all. Like it's I think too many people, this might sound bad, like pursue their dreams over
Hmm.
what's realistic. A lot of people
Mm,
have shared dreams. So if you have all these people trying to make a company there's a competition that are like, nobody wants to do waste hauling. Nobody wants to do, everybody I know that has a successful company, it's typically something strange. It's
mm,
painting machinery parts. It's negotiating executive packages for high level nonprofit employees. Like
mm,
very niche, like very small, very
mhm.
unique. So where I'm at right now is this is going well. We have lightning in the bottle. How do I
Yeah.
spread that out? How do I add other revenue streams?
Hmm.
Um, Figure out how to build something that's longer lasting. So
Mm,
that's actually something that business partner Landon and I discuss frequently. Is like how do we do that? Because we have this playbook that works for us.
mm,
That doesn't work in every industry.
mm.
That's something that I think people need to realize. Is like it's all different. Eh, just because I'm good at this company doesn't mean I'll be good at another one.
Mm,
But like I said, we don't sweat the small things. So the small, like being as efficient as possible, making every little last dollar, making sure things like we wouldn't be well,
mhm.
like we would not do well in that type of company. But we do have a lot of strengths, and we're trying to figure out the opportunities that line up with what we're.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it sounds like at the bottom line is your passion is the people that work for you.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I friendship, memories.
Hmm.
That's what matters. At the end of the day, like when I reflect back on these 7 years, I think that's like I said, that's what you remember. You remember the
Yeah.
hard work, the times that you had to rewire all the hydraulics on the truck because the tire blew out and ripped the thing off the side, and you had 7 hours before your first job, like that type of thing. I have memories of faking it till you make it, where we're just getting started and I'm driving a dump truck and my business partner is loading me up in an excavator. We're on University of Texas. While in a Zoom meeting talking with these high ends of UT, we have to like stop and answer questions and then go back to like working. You look back at that, but I mean, like I said, it's the connections you make with people, the impact that you have on their life, the impact they have on your life. That's definitely something that I didn't realize going into this is going to be as important as it is.
I love that. The impact you have on their lives. And I think that's true for a lot of us. You get into business or a certain business and you have one goal only to realize there's so many more layers to it that you didn't realize were there, and makes it all the more worthwhile.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important. I have people ask me all the time, like starting up a company, like just start, take the first step. Like, I had no idea we'd be doing as much concrete as we are now. Back in the day, I didn't even know we were doing concrete. It just naturally happened. I thought we would have been this waste hauling demo conglomerate that we don't even have the waste division anymore. We shut it down 3 years ago because it was we're a big believer in the 80-20 rules here. I don't know if you picked up on that. So, like 80% of our issues were coming from that division and not a lot of profit.
Okay.
So just cut that.
Smart choice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might have already answered this question, but I want to fast forward just a little bit and think about the future. Where do you see yourself or maybe Vesta in 3 to 5 years?
That is a very, very good question that Landon and I talk about frequently, because we've never been a revenue company. We don't want to be a revenue company. We see that causing issues in our industry where people chase a number so they get jobs that they end up losing money on, or they waste a lot of time to not make money. And then also it ties up your labor force, your ability to like for us, what we're dynamic at is responding and getting people out of holes and being really good at showing extra attention that other people don't show. And it's like, if we're spread so thin trying to do a whole bunch of that, it's gonna be harder for us to be who we are as a company. And we're at this weird spot where we're starting to become more corporate, getting more and more layers. We have more middle management. It's getting more corporate while also holding on the identity of what got us here and who we are and what separates us. So the next 3 to 5 years, we want to organically grow and kind of go down the direction that us as a collective lead us. I mean, I don't need to be like we have to do 25 million or we need to be this. I would like to have another revenue stream, like we added the earthwork. I would like to add something else by that point. I would like the company to be structured a little bit differently, with having a little bit more organization from the bottom up as far as our superintendent, stuff like that. I think we need to be a little bit more organized, have a little more checks and balances, because like I said, we don't micromanage, but we do need to, as we get bigger and my business partner have less and less finger on the pulse of what's going on in the bottom, like we need to have checks and balances in place to make sure things are going well. So I would say 3 to 5 years. I would like to have added another revenue stream. I would like to have built out the infrastructure a little bit better with the company so that it runs a little bit smoother and isn't as reliant on certain individuals.
Yeah. What would that mean for you as an individual if it looked this way in 3 to 5 years? What kind of life would that give you?
I mean, right now I have a pretty good life. I think all of us, I would say our employees have a decent.
For sure.
That's been and will always be a focus. Like we try not to work on Saturdays. Like, in our company, they are in our industry, you're constantly asked because they want to make up the schedule, and 99.9% of the time, like, it isn't your fault, isn't your problem. So we're pretty aggressive with giving these guys time to go spend with their family, enjoying life. Because I mean, nothing we do, it's construction, nothing we do is that important. So if you ever call me and tell me you missed a daughter's soccer game or anything like that, like that's a big deal. So we have a pretty good lifestyle right now. It'd be maintaining that. Me specifically, I do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff right now. So I wear a lot of hats. I'm CEO, CFO, accountant, project coordinator. I mean, whatever I need to be in that moment. So I would say the step for me would be getting kind of an admin assistant to, before we start the accounting, the quarterly reports I'm
The
doing
show.
right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do a lot
Yeah.
of mm, trivial tasks that maybe I wouldn't need to do, but at the same time, I'm a
Mhm.
pretty big believer in keeping overhead as low as possible. So I'm going to do that as long as I can because it
Yeah.
just construction's ebbs and flows, up and downs. And you see these entrepreneurs get themselves in trouble by adding too much quickly, and they think,
Mm.
oh, I'm an owner of a company that's beneath me. Like nothing should be beneath you. If it takes you 5 hours a week to do some task, you
Mhm.
have to pay somebody 50,000 a year. Like, why don't you just tackle that now until you're at a
True.
spot where you don't have to worry about it?
So true. That's really good advice, actually. So true. Well, I'm just glad you're at a point in your business that you're not getting robbed anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was,
Awesome. Well,
uh,
I want to get to our rapid fire questions. These are my favorite questions. They're really fun. So, are
okay,
you ready?
let's do it.
All right. What do you think is the key to success for you?
Key to success for me. I like how you phrase that for me because I'm a firm believer of it's different for everybody.
Mhm.
I what I'm good at, what worked for me will not work for somebody else.
Sure.
So I would say for me, I'd probably say just my mindset has helped
Mm,
me be successful. Like I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I have strengths, but I have a lot of weaknesses. That's why I found a good business partner that complemented who I am. And
mm,
a lot of his strengths counter my weaknesses. We joke all the time that if I didn't have him, I'd be plodding along, like doing 1 million a year in revenue, like barely holding on. Well, he would have done 25 million in year two, but went under because he cash flow. He couldn't like, he plays offense, I play defense. It works really well.
that's awesome.
So I would say I always tell people like we're not special as people. It's just how you view things.
Mm,
It's back to what we talked about earlier. Like I was always so scared of sitting behind a desk doing something
mm,
I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to wake
yeah.
up and be trapped. My best friend's growing up dad was always an example of like he just never seemed overly happy. Like he had a fine
Yeah.
job working for the government, making money, but it was like there was like a sadness behind his eyes. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know, but in my
I
mind,
think we've all, yeah, I think we've all seen those people
yeah, I'm like,
very much.
I
Yeah.
do not want to do that. Like that will not be me. So
Yeah.
I would say just having a mindset
Mhm.
of not failing,
Yeah.
not being scared. I mean, you have to take
Mm,
risks. Everything in entrepreneurship is a calculated risk, but you can control factors in that. Like every time I've grown, my business partner and I in this company, like we've had to take a big step,
mhm.
but maybe you curate that a little bit of, all right, I'll get the job, and then once I have the contract, I'll tell them I have all this like smoke and mirrors, but then okay, now I can go out and actually buy the equipment behind it, and, like make it happen. So many people put the cart in front of the horse, and like there's
Mhm.
ways to take risks and also control elements of it.
Yeah.
I think that
I love
whole
that.
back is being afraid because you don't get
Mm,
anywhere without taking at least some sort of risk.
so true. So true. It's good. What would be your one piece of advice to other business owners like are listening right now?
I would say reshape the way you're looking at obstacles.
Mm,
To me, obstacles are an opportunity. A lot of times they're a barrier to entry that other people won't. They'll just stop. Like, oh, I don't want to do that. That takes too much time, too much paperwork.
yeah.
That's too difficult. Well, that means there's a set group of people that your industry that aren't going to do that. So that's limiting the amount of competition you have. So I'm trying to give an example. Like for us, when we guys started, being able to haul asbestos, like whenever I was doing the waste
Hmm.
hauling division, like it was a pain. It was a lot you had to
Mm,
go through to be able to do that. I mean, obviously you're
and
not
dangerous.
exactly. But once you went through that, at one point we were the only private hauler of asbestos in Austin.
Mm,
It took a
wow.
lot to get there, but it's like, okay, now there's nobody else that can do this. So I think people should reshape how they view some
Mm,
obstacles because they really can be an opportunity for you to separate yourself and keep other individuals out.
I like that. They can be an opportunity. That's so good. Yeah. All right. What is one book or podcast that you may be reading or listening to right now that you want to share?
Oh, well, I typically listen to audiobooks for more educational purposes, which right now I'm listening to Sapiens by Yuval Harari. It's like the third time I listened to that one. It's a great one, but it's not really business related. That's more of the view of humanity over time, which is really good if you haven't read it. For
Cool.
pleasure, I actually physically read. I just finished Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. That was a good one.
Cool. What is
I would
that
say
about?
that's it's from the 50s and it's actually the what Blade Runner, I don't know if you've seen that's based off of the Harrison Ford 1980s movie.
Oh, I have not seen it, but I do know what you're talking about.
It's the book that's based off. Like I think it's like 54 or something like that. It's pretty
Wow.
interesting, especially with it being 75 years old. Like I thought that was good.
Yeah, I
Um,
like
as,
that.
as far as business related, I would probably recommend Early Retirement Extreme by Jacob Fisker. It's a book I read when I was about 21, and it had a lot of impact on me.
Mm,
I always felt certain things about society in the world. I was always a contrarian. I was always asking why. I was always cynical. I was the kid. I was the little kid in Sunday school being like, Noah was how old? Like, what? That was always me growing up, and I had all these thoughts in my head about society.
mm,
And the early retirement extreme was the first time I read something was like, that's it. That's why growing up, you're told like, oh, doctors, like one of the top things you could be.
mm,
It's like, is it really like how many hours do they work? And
mm,
they're on call constantly, and they don't get to see their families. Like,
mm.
are we sure the masseuse that only works 30 hours a week and makes enough and can take
Yeah.
whatever and travel isn't a better career? And it goes into a lot of stuff like of that. Um, the materialist and status driven element of society holding people back, where you see these
Mm,
people that work their way up the corporate ladder and they just when they start making more, they just get another car that's more expensive. They get the house that's slightly more expensive, and like they're not putting any more money away. They're just when
mm.
they get a promotion, they spend just as much. They just that car that was perfectly fine before, they needed to trade in to get a nicer one,
Yeah.
and it kind of keeps people on the rat race. And
Mm.
that kind of opened my eyes to okay, there's something else going on here with our society.
Yeah. I wrote that book down. Early Retirement Extreme.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's really good. Yeah. Okay. Last and final rapid question is if you had a little bit of magic dust and could sprinkle it anywhere in your business, where would it be?
Oh, I mean, if I could change anything, it'd be payment terms. I mean,
Hmm.
construction. So, like you said, at any point in time, we have about a third of our revenue is owed to us. There's a
Hmm.
thing called retainage in our industry, where I would say 90% of our jobs take off 10% of all of our invoices, just hold it to the end of the job. Sometimes that's years. Like you don't see 10% for years. Um, but at the same time, that kind of goes back to the obstacle and the barrier to entry. If that wasn't there, then we'd have more competition. Like it makes it way more
Mm.
for others to get in. So would I really change it? Probably not, because it's what's keeping people from being able to do what we do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the easy answer.
You turned your obstacle into an opportunity, like you spoke about earlier.
That's how you got to
Yeah,
look at it.
that's good. Well, before we get to the last question of the day, share with everyone listening how they can follow you or hire you.
Yeah. LinkedIn would probably be the best way to see what we can do. A lot of our marketing of how we present ourselves, is we're the friend next door that you call up on Thursday and go get a drink with, like that type of thing. And LinkedIn's our platform to kind of show what we do. You can see us pouring out a coda. We got some cool pictures and videos of
Mm,
that, some of our demo stuff. So we're posting on there, showing who we are. Kind of, it's our counterbalance to say, hey, yeah, we have a good time, and you see us doing all this, enjoying ourselves. But we know what we're doing too, and
hmm.
here's everything that we do. I'm on LinkedIn. That's the only social media I have. So we
Okay,
got a
awesome.
website, but yeah.
LinkedIn and your website. That's great. We'll put it in the show notes for sure. Okay, so last question of the day. What is most inspiring you today?
This was a good one. I had to wrap my brain around this one for a minute. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of in this weird spot of transition and figuring out what we want to do next. And I kind of kept on going back to kind of what I harped on earlier about friendship. Like I say that's probably my biggest inspiration in my company and what we do and what we do going forward is I don't want to lose that. I want to cultivate that environment of these guys being in my life, me being in their life, growing a real family here. So I would say growing and cultivating friendships are my inspiration currently.
I love that. I love that that's a core value of your business. I don't think, like you said, you don't find it a lot in businesses. You don't find it, I'm sure, a lot in construction. So I think that's beautiful.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, this was a great conversation. I love hearing the backstories of, business owners like yourself. And you just had some really great nuggets and inspiration. So I just really enjoy it. And I just want to encourage all of you watching to just save this show and come back and watch it again because Josh really had some great words of wisdom and a great story too. So also don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can get a notification every time a new conversation drops just like this one. Thanks everyone who joined us today, and a special thank you to you, Josh. It was really a pleasure.
Thanks, Heather. Appreciate it.
Bye.